Check, check, check. 1, 2, check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. The Coffee and Biscotti Show. Today is Friday, August the 27th, 12 o'clock EST. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are having an awesome Friday. I got a great show for you tonight, and I'll tell you why it's going to be great. It's great because he's one of my boys. That's why it's going to be great. It's going to be great because there's this chemistry that I have with this man. You know when they say you have a bromance? I got a bromance with this guy. He's one of my boys. Everywhere, no matter how much time goes by, when we connect, it's like we didn't miss a beat. So aside from having him on the show, I always want to do a check-in, bit of a crazy week here in Ottawa. The numbers in Ontario are going up for this whole COVID stuff, and it's really frustrating. There was a kid in my son's class that tested positive for COVID, so we've been doing the isolation thing, so that's thrown a bit of a loop into my life. But, I had a walk with my dear friend Albert today. And we were talking about changing the lenses. Whenever you have something that's challenging on your plate, to change the lens, to see what positive or what form of gratitude you can bring to that situation. And so, here we are, the last week of summer, before we get into the Labor Day long weekend. And I said, it's been tough. I haven't been able to do much work this week. But I had to change the lenses, and I really did. And I am so grateful that I had this opportunity to spend time with my boy and the connection that we're developing, and that really deep, meaningful connection that I'm developing with my little 3-year-old boy. And, it's actually the perfect segue into our guest today because, he's the vice principal of David Suzuki Secondary School in Brampton, Ontario. He's a father of 6. Hold on a minute. Yeah, check your microphone. I don't know if you heard that right. Father of 6. I have trouble with 1. I don't know how this man does 6, but clearly he's on this show because he found his calling. He was destined to help the youth. And you can tell because he's an awesome dad. He's an awesome husband. He's an entrepreneur of real amateur wrestling. He's a vice principal of a school. He's a decorated athlete. I mean, can I say any more? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you got to check your life and see what you're doing in your life. But I'm looking at this man's life and going, holy shitballs. Could you do any more things in your life? I mean, I think we should just stop it at father of 6 and say, okay, we're good. Let's have a dad's group now, and Coach will be our special guest on the dad's group. But I'm really excited today, guys, because he really is an awesome human being. I really love this guy. He's just got a wonderful energy about him. He is, he's an artist. He loves the martial arts. He's a 2-time OFSA coaching champ. So his team won OFSA here in Ontario. He's a 3-time judo champion. I mean, this is my kind of guy. When I think about guys and men's men, this is my kind of guy. And you know why? Because if you met him, you would never know that he could pick you up and throw you down in a heartbeat. You never would know, man. He's truly what we call, when I use this expression all the time, folks, and I say, in life, humbleness is important. And you know who you can tell are the animals that are really, truly humble? The biggest, the king of the jungle, the lion. The lion doesn't need to tell anybody that it's a lion. You know why? Because it already knows. And when you deal with, consummate professionals in the arts, you meet people who are as humble as they come. They're humble because there's nothing to prove. They don't need to show off. They don't need to, boast. They don't need to display their ego. so that they can share with their friends and their communities how great they are, because they already know they're a lion. So they don't need to. They don't need to do this. And this man is the embodiment of exactly that. He really is a fabulous man. So wherever you are in the world, I would like for you to get off of your comfortable seat and put your hands together for the one and only Coach Chris Kelman, aka the Kelmanator. There is no greater.
Whoa. We got to end the show right there. I can't talk after that. You kidding me? You know what?
Bonafide Gaming Brother says, my favorite teacher of all time. Kuro. He's a man of his words and loves to educate people with positivity. Look at this, Coach. We just started the show and the chat's going bananas for you already.
I'm seeing it, brother. I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it, man. Hey, this is what I got to say. Waglio Pagano chi dice. And I also want to start off the show the right way with a little prayer. Santa Maria, Madre de Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e alla nostra morte. Amen. In the nome del Padre, Figlio, Spirito Santo. Amen. Baciacello. That's how we do it, man.
That's it.
That's how we do
it. I love it. I love it.
Loving the crew. That's why I'm here, because I'm loving the crew.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much, man, for inviting me onto your show. I can see some of the comments rolling in. I just got a shout out from my boy, JD. Thank you very much, sir. I just texted him back with a thumbs up for recognizing. I've got a few followers that I sent out the information, so they're here and they're watching. And I really appreciate you, JD. I really appreciate everybody else. My son, Kuro, that gave me a hit up as well and wished me the best for this program. You know what, son? I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I have you. I'm blessed that I have JD. You know, and I want to thank my wife, first of all and foremost, because she's the best. She's my number one, because without her, I probably wouldn't be here today. So, Susanna Kelman, love you to no end. Straight up.
Straight up, man.
Now I'm ready. Now I'm feeling good. Now I can talk about anything else. Straight up.
I love it, bro. And I just want to give a shout out to, of course, the moderator, Poutine Nation. Make sure you give him a follow, because Josh is like the man. He's a genius. He's a TEDx speaker. So you make sure you go check him out. And I want to give a little love. I want to give a little love, Coach, to a young lady who's in Florida, who's just a fabulous young woman who's now following the show, Kitty Grinder X. Sending some love to you, girl. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry you're having trouble with the stream. I hope you can figure it out. I know this whole restream thing doesn't work great on the phones, but I hope you're listening, and I hope you heard a little love going your way, Coach. What an absolute honor to have you here, spending 90 minutes with a guy of your stature is a lot to ask. So I'm honored that you've taken 90 minutes out of your day to be here, especially as, of course, as we know, we're headed back to school soon. It looks like schools are going to be returning, and you will be at work.
As a matter of fact, I was at work this morning, and I left and I came home a little bit early, finished up everything I had to do. Everything was cleared. Everything was looking good. So the office staff knows what's going on. And here I am today, man. Came home especially for this show, and I just want to make things right. I want to do things right. I want to do it right by the crew.
Thanks, brother. So, Coach, you know, there's so much to unpack with our story, with your story. And certainly, you know, just to kind of give some background, guys, me and Coach Chris Kelman, we met at one of the most famous sports camp, I would say, in all of Canada, called Camp Olympia in Huntsville, Ontario. Lots of NBA players came out of that camp. I know that there's teachers from all over the province that get invited to direct and to assist direct coaching their respective sports and activities. And of course, you know, week 9 was our week, and we had our dear friend Frenchie Biscotti heading up the hockey program. And then I got a chance to meet the wrestling boys. And I just want to make something very clear here publicly, Coach, because there's something that we need to understand. You know what it is? I've been in the martial arts game for almost 25 years. And I'll tell you this, of all the guys that I ever met in my life, and I'm going to swear here, so I'm going to make sure if there's kids, mute it. You don't fuck with wrestling guys. Let's just put it out there, folks. Of all the guys, the toughest guys that I ever met, these guys were at the top of the chart when it came to just all around toughness. And, what do we have to look at, Coach? We just have to take a look at Khabib, 29-0 in the UFC, wrestles bears in his spare times in wherever he's in Russia, Dagestan or wherever he's from, But here's the point. Coach, we met at this camp and it was instant. It was instant. There was an instant connection. You were the director of the program. You had guys like Jason Flinders, Dave Matcham, Coach Kelvin, Coach Kevin Mayhew, Marlon, all these guys. And listen, folks, I'll tell you the truth. These guys were serious boys, every single one of them. And what I loved about what they did was they were taking the time out of their life to spend one full week, because it's a sleepover camp, so they can dedicate and share their passions of their arts with the youth of today. And that's a lot of things. So before we even get into all of this, Coach, because there's so much to unpack, I could talk about you for hours. I want to really paint a picture for our friends in the Twitchiverse about who Coach Kelman really is. Who's this guy, man? Who's this brethren? Who is he and where's he from? And give us a little bit of a background, Coach.
Yeah, certainly. I like to say I was born in Britain, bred in Brooklyn, and brought to Brampton. When I was a year and a half old, I left London, England. Parents were very young, really couldn't afford to look after us. Somehow we got shipped off to South America, Guyana, where I was there until I was almost 5 years old. And I was raised or looked after by my great-grandmother, my late great-grandmother, and my late Uncle James, and my Uncle George. We then migrated to Canada when I was about 5 or almost 5. And that's where I met my parents for the first time. So they have this thing that they say that when I studied at Brock University, I studied a psychology course, and I didn't know about myself and why I didn't have perhaps a strong connection with my parents throughout my life. But I read and I learned in the formative years between 0 and 5, that's where you develop that love, that connection to the people that in the beginning of your life that raised you. I didn't have that bond and that connection with my parents. So I found it very difficult and challenging throughout life to really be as close as I would like to. I love my parents dearly as they love me, but you don't have that. So there's always something missing. And because there was something missing while growing up and going through life, which has an impact on you throughout your life, you're always in this state of pursuit of contentment. And in order to find that, you have to find something that you're connected to and connected with. And you were talking about the martial arts and the wrestling. That's what I found. And I found the wrestling through street fighting. I found the wrestling through street fighting because when I came to Canada, I experienced something that I never experienced before when I was living in South America, and I didn't know about when I was in England. And that was prejudice, and that was racism, and that was oppression. And all these things began to have an impact on me when I was a kid. So as I grew and I faced all these challenges, I had to find something because I was missing some of a connection. So by the time I got to the 6th grade, living in Hamilton, Ontario, being called every name in the book, the N-word just about every single day, walking home, getting jumped, getting picked on, I learned to fight. And I learned to fight very, very well. And I was a very good street fighter, and it built up a reputation to the point where When I was in school, after several years of fighting in the 6th grade, the principal called me in the office, said, Kelman, we're starting a wrestling program. And I said, what's that? And he explained. And I said, oh, so you mean I get to put my hand on these kids and not get in trouble for it and not end up in your office getting the strap? Sign me up. You're giving me permission to do what I'm doing on the streets without getting in trouble? I'm all in. Love the idea. So I started the wrestling when I was in the 6th grade. Kind of figured it out. By the end of the 6th grade, I became the Hamilton Regional Champion. Loved it. Still fighting on the streets because that prejudice is never going away. But now I'm fighting with more skills. 7th grade, same thing. Still on the streets, getting a little bit more disciplined, getting into the sports, become the Hamilton Regional Champion in the 7th grade. The 8th grade, same thing. Not fighting as much on the streets because now I'm doing some damage. People kind of understand who I am. Now I'm getting respect. Now it really doesn't matter about the color of my skin so much because they see that I'm polite and respectful, I'm disciplined, I'm strong, and I've done a lot of damage. So people are starting to leave me alone, and I'm feeling good about that. Now I'm building friendships and developing relationships that are more meaningful beyond just appearance or appearances. Then I get uprooted. We moved to Brooklyn, New York when I'm 12 years old. So I'm on the verge now, 12, 13, of winning the next regional championship in Hamilton. We get plucked, boom, we're gone. And some of the cause and reason for the move is family dynamics and things going on, which I'll touch a little bit on later on in the show. I get to Brooklyn, New York. Now there's more problems. There's problems because I'm in a culture shock. I am so used to being picked on and discriminated upon that I don't even know who I am. I go to Brooklyn, New York. I'm seeing and I'm immersed with people of color that are smart, successful, athletic, and I'm in shock. I don't even know what to do with myself. So here I am in the 8th grade in, where was I? Meyer 11 PS 285. That was my public school. And kids are coming around, they're surrounding me and whatnot, and I'm different because I have a slightly different accent. I'm polite, I'm respectful, and some of these kids are not as polite and respectful as I am. And so they start to pick fights with me because I'm too nice. I'm too quiet and studious and too nice. Plus, some of the girls like me. They like my dimples. They like the way I spoke. They like the fact that I can answer questions in class. They like the fact that I wasn't given a hard time to the teachers, and that attracted them to me. So then the guys got pissed off. So that created street fights for me when I was on the street. But because I was already kind of skilled and trained, I was able to handle my business. So I instantly got respect when I was in Brooklyn, New York. People kind of left me alone. Things worked out fairly well. But what I learned from Brooklyn, New York, and what I loved about living there was it gave me a clear sense of my own identity in my own skin, to appreciate the way I looked, to appreciate who I am and what I was learning to become of myself. Brooklyn gave me hope. Brooklyn gave me confidence. So I can walk anywhere on the planet, and it doesn't matter who thinks or says what of me because of my appearance. I'm solid with who I am as an individual. It's that American patriotic attitude that I developed about myself being a Black individual anywhere on the planet. And then I was good. So I had a great time in Brooklyn, New York. I met friends, talking to people, getting along, and things just started to shift and things started to change. And then my personality started to come out, and it was kind of like the growth or the birth and set up for the Kelmanator or Kelmanation for later on in life. So I had a great experience. And then by the time I was 15, I had started high school in Brooklyn, New York. They start in the 10th grade. They have the 10th, 11th, and 12th, freshman, sophomore, and senior. I made the soccer team. I made the senior soccer team when I was 15. I was skilled and was having a great time. And then, boop, we came back to Canada.
Wow.
Just
You
this
pick up
thing
and move
started-
again.
I had to move again. No real explanation. And by the way, when I was in Brooklyn, we were there and we were Trump's favorites. I was an undocumented immigrant living in the United States of America,
Favorite.
1978, 79, 80, 81. And I didn't care. And we lived in some pretty impoverished places at times, just trying to get our feet on the ground. No bed to sleep on, cockroaches, mice running through the place. I don't want to get into all that, but just a little of what I used to have to go through. But you learn and you live. So I come back to Canada now. I'm 15. Living in Niagara Falls, New York with my uncle that I used to live with in Guyana when I was 2, 3, 4, 5. Went to Stanford Secondary School. It was my first high school in Canada. Was there for a bit in the 10th grade, and then whoosh, we moved to Mississauga, Ontario. Getting resettled again. I moved about 36 times in my life.
Holy smokes.
Like I can count about 36 different homes that I've lived in between 5 years, between birth and 19 when I went off to university. So I'm back here now at 15 in Mississauga. I'm in the 10th grade and I see wrestling again because I didn't wrestle when I was in New York. Unfortunately, didn't have parents that really invested time into me with my wrestling, etc. And I'm here. But I was confident, but not skilled in the sport anymore. So I joined when I was like in the 11th grade. I was like 16. And it took me a couple of years to kind of get the groove of it. So by the time I was 17, I met this guy, this coach, Eddie Falcioni. Something with me and Italians, we just clicked. And so Eddie Falcioni now was at this wrestling club called Matman, plus he was at a different high school called Arundel. And I was at the Woodlands High School. So I got introduced to this Matman Wrestling Club through a friend of mine, Kevin Lomas. And then I wanted to go to that high school, Arundel, where Eddie Falcioni was, because I saw what he was doing with kids. And I saw he had a profound impact on me as an individual. And what I loved about it was he didn't care about the color of your skin. He just cared that you were a good, respectful, polite individual with some work ethics that wanted to learn the sport for anybody. So I ended up transferring high schools when I was 18. Went over to Arundel, and things were great. Joined the wrestling team, ended up doing fairly well in school. Didn't end up getting through with wrestling and being that champion that I was in elementary school. It just took so much time for me to learn and develop the sport. But I promised myself that I would try to figure it out and I would get better. And then it promoted me to want to go to university and to keep studying because I knew that there was wrestling at university and I wanted to get better. So I studied, graduated high school. And when I left, I went up to my coach and I said, "Hey, Eddie, I just want to thank you. And I want to say a couple of things." He goes, "What's that?" I said, "I just want you to know that I'm going to be just like you, but only in color." So he kind of laughed, shook my hands. I went off to Brock University. I came back and I visited Eddie every single year just to say, "Hey, I'm doing well in school or I'm not doing well in school. This is who I'm dating. This is who I'm not dating. Everything's good." We had a great time. So I went off to university, Brock University, and started doing well with wrestling, catching up to guys, training with guys on the Olympic team, the Marty Collars of the world, solid individuals that are really good and trying to be there. But I was always that guy that got fourth, fifth, or sixth. And the reason why is because I was struggling at university. My parents helped me out a little bit in my first couple of years, and then I was grateful for that. But then I was kind of on my own, paying for university myself, paying for my rent, tuition, paying for my car, my insurance, doing everything all on my own, just struggling. And it was very difficult to work a couple part-time jobs while studying and while trying to wrestle and devote all your time to that. So I ended up quitting wrestling. I quit so that I can get to study a little bit more. But before I ended up quitting wrestling, I got kicked out of university. I got kicked out of university because I failed one too many classes. And not because I wasn't trying. It's just that I had too much on my plate, too much stress. When I was out of university, I worked in a factory for a year. And when I was in that factory, I didn't like it. I didn't like it because it was a brain dead job, and I knew that I was an academic. And I had something to prove to myself. So I went back. I figured out when I was off of university, I read the calendar, figured out what I needed to do, went back and applied, told the dean that this is a circumstance. The dean let me back in. And when I got back in, I did very well, and I was able to graduate. When I was there, my coach wanted me, wrestling coach at high school wanted me to come back and wrestle, but I said I couldn't do it, primarily because I had another goal, and that was to graduate and to move forward and eventually do other positive things in my life, which I ended up doing. So I got into judo. And I got into judo because I still needed to do something physical. And you can identify and know that as a competitor, that we live in such a way that if you ask me what I remember most of my childhood in that existence, it's fighting. So I've always got to stay connected to the fight, because the fight builds my mind. It builds my body. It keeps me true. It keeps me humble. It keeps me wanting more. It keeps me in that pursuit of contentment, and it balances me. So I got into the judo. New guy at the judo, but my mindset had changed. Young man in my 20s. I'm going to take it by storm. With all the wrestling background that I had in me and all the street fighting background in me, I went to that judo arena, smashed everybody. In 1990, 91, 92, I was a provincial champion for my belt level, from white belt to about blue, 3 years in a row. But then life got in the way. I had aspirations of doing better, trying to make the national team. I was training with some provincial guys. I was doing very well and building a reputation for myself, but got married. Got married early. I was 28. Had a kid, and life began. So how do you train when you have responsibilities? I have a mortgage. I have a wife. I've got a kid. Got another kid on the way. How do you do all these things and keep balanced? Some stuff have to give. So the judo had to go away because I couldn't keep up with the training to be as competitive and as successful as I needed and wanted to be. So I focused on family, and I focused on work, my education and work. I started working as a teaching assistant with my old high school coach, Eddie Falcioni, at Brampton Centennial Secondary School. And that's where I think a lot of the fun really began. This man taught me so much, just watching him and how he interacted with his staff and with the students and how he coached. I learned how to become a good coach. So after 3 years of working at Brampton Centennial, I finally got into teachers college. Yeah, it took me 4 attempts to get into teachers college.
Wow.
And there was nothing wrong with my grades.
What was it?
It was just, some of it is systematic. It's a system. Some of it's luck. Some of it is just persistence. The right place, the right time, the stars aligning. Things have to come together in order for you to really get to where you want to be in life. So after 3 attempts of not getting into teachers college, I actually went down to the dean at York University because that's where I wanted to go. And I said, tell me why I'm not getting in. These grades are as good as anybody else's. Like, what do I need to do? And he said, well, you're right. Your inactivity over a number of years, we don't know if you're as academic to handle teachers' college. I go, what are you talking about? I go, I was inactive and didn't apply to do what I needed to do to get into teachers' college because I was married and working and got a mortgage and I didn't have time for school. I was setting up my life. He understood. He said, you know what? Take one class and prove that you can get, I think, a 70% or better. And then we'll let you in. Guaranteed. I go, can I take any class I want? He goes, yeah. So I said, no problem. I registered at York and I took a Spanish class. I remember university.
Really?
Yeah. I had a 90-something in Spanish in university. I'm like, I could do this. No problem. Do it in my sleep. But when you don't study for years, the guy's right. Like, you kind of lose stuff.
Yeah, man.
So here I was working full time. I was coaching, got a family, and I'm going to university. I'm taking a university level Spanish course, and I haven't studied Spanish in like 10 years. So I was struggling. I had to get a tutor. I had to do everything just to try to scrape by. I finally got that 70%. I ran to the dean. I said, here's your 70. He's like, okay, you're in. And that's how I got into teachers college. Meanwhile, I was still working as a teaching assistant. And yeah, finally got through. Finished teachers college. Out of 8 classes that I took at teachers college, I got 2 B pluses and 6 A's while working full time, managing my marriage, managing with children, and coaching.
So how old do you coach when you had your first child?
28 or 29. I was married at 28, and yeah, by the time I was 29, I had the first child, 30, second child, 31, third child. So I had 3 kids. I had 3 kids within 3 years and 2 days of my first marriage. Yeah, man.
That's keeping yourself busy.
It was extremely busy. Extremely busy.
3 kids under 4 years old.
3 kids, 3
Right?
years and 2 days. My eldest and my youngest from that first marriage are exactly 3 years and 2 days apart. Yeah, incredible. I was busy.
Yeah, you were a busy guy.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Coach, I sit here, I'm listening to the story. I know a little bit of it, but there's elements I don't know. It's a lesson to be sort of shared with everyone, because I think that what pops into my mind first is the tenacity, like the perseverance to go out and do what you got to do. And here's and is incredible. But here's the thing that really pops for me as well, and that's, you talk about your upbringing, you talk about the challenges you had, moving 36 times, going from Britain to Brooklyn to Brampton. I mean, it's just incredible. But without it, Coach, without you having that experience, you feeling like you didn't fit in, you feeling like you were, maybe an outcast, feeling like you just didn't have a home or didn't feel settled, not having that connection with mom and dad from the ages 0 to 5. All of these things contributed to you being who you are. And it's because of that you had this incredible level of perseverance that most people after 3 tries, never mind after 3 tries, Coach, let's face it. In today's world, we can't watch a video for 2 minutes without getting ready to go to the next one because we just don't have the patience for it. Imagine trying 3 times to get into teacher college. That's crazy, Coach.
Got it on my 4th attempt.
It's
crazy.
Wanted
to do it.
It's crazy.
And there's
already lessons to be had here.
I was working in a group home full time, and from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock during the day, going and volunteering at Brampton Centennial before I got in to become a teaching assistant. And the group home wanted me to stay full-time, but I told them one day I'm going to become a teacher. And I left the group home job to go work as a teaching assistant full-time for those 3 years. But I continued to work in the group homes part-time on the weekends and in the evenings.
What were you doing there, Coach?
I was a counselor for the youth that some were in jail, some were just behavioral individuals. They had issues, with their families, and they ended up in group homes for various reasons. And I loved working with those kids because those are the kids that need the help.
Yeah.
Those are the kids that were missing something. Those are the kids that also, like me, didn't have something in the formative years of their development. And they unfortunately ended up going on a different path or a different route. But I kind of understood them. And because I felt that I knew what they were missing, I felt I was a guy to go and help them with their journey.
Absolutely.
And I still feel that way. I feel that way. And that's why I got into teaching, because in the classroom as an educator, and I primarily taught physical education at the high school level, but I taught elementary school for 4 years first. And they're kids, man. Like, they need people like you and me that care, that want to help them to learn and grow, to meet and maximize their full potential.
Coach, I want to give a little shout out to Rosie Tozy because she's in here, Emma, and I'll tell you why I want to give it, because she's studying to be an educator, and I know that
Rosie Tozy 13.
I think that she's going to get a lot from this, and a lot from you. And man, if there was an opportunity to connect you two to have a chat, I'm sure she would love it, because she's in the US, and it's one of those things, because I think she's going to be a fabulous teacher. She's such an amazing young woman. And, just hearing your story, is motivation in itself. So continue, Coach. And thank you for sharing this, because I said to you, if you remember, Coach, leading up to this interview, I was saying, Coach, your story needs to be heard. And that's why, and I say this every week, Coach, I created this platform because I wanted to share stories of people that lived their lives with passion and that did some sort of, or had some sort of transformation in their life. And you really are that, Coach. I mean, it really is an incredible story. I don't know what to say other than what an absolute incredible journey. So continue from there, Coach, because I want to go on to I want to keep going, because I want to know when RAW started and Real Amateur Wrestling started as well.
We'll dig a little deeper now. So after I finished teachers college, did well, and I worked, like I said, 4 years as an elementary school teacher, and then I became a high school teacher. I created Real Amateur Wrestling in 1996, and I created it. A lot of people think, oh yeah, you created Real Amateur Wrestling because you love wrestling, you love fighting. Yeah, you're right. I do love wrestling. I do love fighting. That's my thing. But I really created Real Amateur Wrestling because I remember, I don't know, the government said after working as a teaching assistant or a teacher one year that I owed them like $100 or something like that in taxes. I'm like, what? How do I owe you money when you're taking out taxes every single week or 2 weeks off of my paycheck, and I still owe you money after I do my... So I'm like, I need to do something to have a write-off, to claim. And so I thought, well, what do I have that I can do that's a business, that's legit, above board? And I thought about, I can fight. Well, I can coach. And I saw how Matman was organized, and I was there. I learned a lot after 7 years of coaching Matman. I'm like, hey, I'm going to create my own thing. So when I was at teachers college, actually, I thought about the Real Amateur Wrestler, and started designing stuff and doing things and put it together in 96. And then when I started teaching at an elementary school, I created the Real Amateur Wrestling program with some kids that were in my grade 6 class that I used to teach.
Wow, that's young too, coach for wrestling.
Yeah. Well, it's nothing. I mean, they start at 3, 4, 5 in the States.
Yeah, no doubt.
So my guys are like 12, 10, 12, whatever. Started a group and away we went. And then I just continued to coach since 1996. But I created it as a tax haven and a tax write-off. And it's proven to be worthy of its development ever since. But there was a lot of other gains out of it in terms of the people that I got to meet and I was connected to. Like at the beginning of the show, I mentioned JD, Jason Dagler, who was one of my better wrestlers, and still to this day we're good friends. And he became a teacher like me. Now he's teaching and coaching in the same region as me, and I'm proud.
Wow.
I've got other guys like Disgusting Dustin Helwig, who's teaching out in Alberta. I would like to think that part of their development and success was a little inspiration that they got from me. At least they say that. So, and I'm humbled by that. So that's what drives me. So here I am teaching now, and I'm doing very, very well. Everything is kind of going my way. Real Amateur Wrestling is up and running. I finally moved to a high school, and I end up at Heart Lake Secondary School in Brampton. And I'm like, I'm going to be the best teacher coach in the region. And then I'm going to be the best teacher coach in wrestling in the province. That's my goal. So I walked into Heart Lake Secondary School in 1999. And fortunately, when I walked in there, I had about a dozen kids from the elementary schools that were part of my Real Amateur Wrestling that were pretty decent, like the Jason Daglars and others. And when we came in there and started a wrestling team, the high school team before didn't place in the region. So when I got in there in year one, we were 6th place at the end of the season as a team.
Wow.
And in year 2, we were 3rd place in the region of Peel, ROPSA, it's called, Region of Peel Secondary School Athletic Association. In my 3rd year, we tied for 1st place as a team. And then 4th, 5th, and 6th year, we started just winning. So in my total being at that high school, we won the regional championships 5 times out of the 19 years that I taught at Heart Lake Secondary School. And all the other times, we got a 6th, a 3rd, and all the other times a 2nd place. We either lost to Turner Fenton Secondary School, and or we lost to Brampton Centennial Secondary School once, coached by Dave Mottram.
I was just going to say, make the comment. And for Coach, give us a little background on Dave Mottram. Like, for those that don't know the wrestling world, this is a serious guy in Canadian wrestling.
He is serious. And let me give a little shout out and respect to Richard Nill of Turner Fenton Secondary School. He did a tremendous job as a teacher coach when he was there. And he was the guy that kind of challenged me back and forth. And we were trying to be the number one guy all the time. He got the better of me. So good on you, Rico, for doing that. But, we became friends and, we're still in touch and we have a lot of respect and admiration for each other just based on our athletic prowess as coaches and our ability to teach and educate and motivate kids. So good on him. Good on the Turner Fenton program, who were linked with Mattman Wrestling Club. And they've done extremely well. And I'm proud of that program with all the coaches that are there under Richard Nill's tutelage. So good on him. Dave Mottram, whew. He's a man that I idolized. He was on the national team for Canada, represented us, etc. He did extremely well. And there's a real lion. You're talking about humility and humble. You'd never know it. He can be as quiet as a church mouse.
I know. I've seen him. I've met him.
As vicious as the biggest lion in the jungle. He's solid. And what makes him truly solid to me is his character. He's a man of our own cloth, of our own caliber. Dave Mottram, a lot of respect for him. And, he won the regional championship, took a title away from me. Good on him. And I applaud him for that. because he started to drive and make me. Next year, I came and won it back. But he also went on to recently, a couple of years ago, he's out near the Sarnia area, London, Sarnia area. And a couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, his girls team won the OFSA Wrestling Championship, which speaks volumes of the type of teacher coach that he is.
100%.
So Dave Matram, shout out. Bra.
To Dave Matram. That's it, man. Well, I mean, listen, Coach, like I said at the beginning, the guys that you brought, the team that was there at Camp Olympia. I mean, you got Jason Flinders, who's a bear himself, who I couldn't move at all. And he happens also to be an Olympic wrestling referee.
Yeah, he's an Olympic level official as well. He just went to, and shout out to Jason Flinders. He just came back from officiating in Ufa, Russia at the Junior World Championships and did an outstanding job representing Canada. So big up to Jason Flinders, man.
Jason Flinders, man. Good peeps right there, bro.
So,
Coach, I mean, again, this is a great story, but I can't imagine, the lessons. But you went on, you taught at Heart Lake. As a matter of fact, for my friends out in the Twitchyverse, I actually had the pleasure of doing a week there myself.
You did. You came down. You were a special guest, and in my phys ed class, and you actually helped to teach the self-defense unit for our grade 9 students, and you did that a few semesters for us. So I'm eternally grateful for your level of education that you bestowed upon our students.
So, Coach, I got a story to tell. I got a story to tell. I got to tell it because it's really great. I think people will love it, and it is a testament to understanding how you've developed in terms of being a teacher. So the story is this, Coach. The 1 week that I was there was this kid, and I don't remember who it was, but there was a kid. He was sitting on the bench. And you said, listen, man, if you're not going to participate, this bench is for teachers, for guests, for parents, whoever it is that are here. Sit over there with the rest of the crew. And this kid, he was a disrespectful kid, man.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I don't know. He flipped you the bird, or he said like, what the fuck are you going to do, or whatever. And I remember this, Coach. And Rosie Tozy, if you're still here and you're listening, this is the exact kind of thing that
this is real.
This is the real deal. So this kid flips you the bird, tells you to go, to go to wherever, tells you to screw off, and you have to deal with his mom. And I just remember being in the office because we were on lunchtime break, and you had to deal with the situation, call home, because I think you sent the kid to the principal's office and whatever, but it was in the way that you handled it, because the mom basically said, well, you're the problem, teacher, not my kid. My kid not having respect for the teacher is not the problem. It's you. You're the problem, Coach Kelman. You're the problem. You're this disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I couldn't believe it. Listen, I've owned a school for 12 years, but it doesn't follow any board of education, or doesn't have. If somebody said that to me, I'd just kick them right out of the school and say, get the fuck out of here, man. But you handled it with such poise. Really, for me, Coach, it really was a testament to your professionalism as a teacher.
I appreciate that.
Never forget it.
I appreciate that. I've had a couple run-ins with students and, at the high school and in the gym classes, or just period. And I remember another story similar to that where the kid was being disrespectful, et cetera, in class, and was completely inappropriate. And so I said, yeah. And I left. I said, hold on. The class is there. I said, nobody don't do anything. Kid wouldn't leave the class. I said, I'll get you out of here, and I'm not even going to touch you. I walked to the office because I knew that there were some police officers that come to the school. They just happened to be there. I had seen them just before class. So I walked in the office and I said, hey, this is what's going on. Can you come with me? They came to the class. The kid was still trying to be rude and disrespectful, and they pulled him out.
That's it, man. You're out of here, kid.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean, we manage and we talk to the kids, and afterwards, and we kind of settle them down. We show them what the right way of doing things is. We don't want to make an example of people and laugh at them, etc. But sometimes these things need to be done in order to have some decorum and some discipline in the classroom or in the
yeah,
school.
100%, coach.
So, and I'm sure that some of these kids learn their lessons.
We had a situation, coach, with a kid. I don't think he was 100 pounds soaking wet at Camp Olympia. It was the Thursday night movie night. I never forget it, But some little kid stepped up to me. He was 100 pounds soaking wet, coach. And I just remember our boy there, Paul Razzo, he was there. And I think you were there too, coach, because it was wrestling and like MMA covering. And all I have to say, coach, is that you could see that I didn't have that professionalism that you had when it comes to handling these kids.
I'm sure you have it, but you just do it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, because I was ready to choke this kid out and leave him outside the gym. That's what I was going to do. But you can't do that.
Wow.
Anyway, shout out to Kitty Grinder X. Thank you, sweetheart, for being here. Let's connect later. I told you I want to have a chat with you, girl. Maybe you're going to be on the show. Just saying. But Coach, I have to say, so much has happened, and of course, after all these years at Heart Lake,
Heart Lake was a great experience for me. One of the best.
Coach, you ended up now leaving that after how many years?
19 years at Heart Lake. I was a math teacher and phys ed teacher. Math and phys ed in my first 2 years at Heart Lake. I taught those subjects. And then I switched to full phys ed for about 15, 16 years. And then my last 2 years at Heart Lake, I taught phys ed and careers. And all the while coaching. And we ended up winning the OFSA Wrestling Championship as the boys title in 2011 and 2013. It was a very good moment for me, especially in 2013. 2011 winning for the first time was special. Part of the reason is because I became the first African Canadian teacher coach to ever win an OFSA wrestling title. Yeah. Also in the region of Peel, same thing. And I still am in the boys senior title. I'm the first Black teacher coach to ever win that. Yeah. And the only one to this day. Marlon Sherlin won the junior championship. Good on him.
Our boy Marlon?
Yeah, his team won the junior championship 1 year. So he became the first Black teacher coach to win the junior championship. But I'm still the only Black teacher coach in wrestling to ever win the senior regional boys championship in wrestling, and the only Black teacher coach to ever win the OFSA wrestling championship for the boys.
Wow.
So those are things I did on purpose. Like I wanted to be that first guy. I wanted to, and that was part of my goal, part of my drive. And because I studied the history of the sport and the coaches and who did well, and I wanted to be up in there with them. And as I was looking through, I didn't see anybody that actually won these championships that I knew that were Black. And I asked, I'm like, who's this coach? What's their background? What's their nationality? Why? Because growing up, I never had anybody like me, for me, not in the educational school system, not as a coach until I got, so I wanted to be that individual for others.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So 19 years at Heart Lake, and did what I did as a teacher coach, had a fantastic time, worked with great staff. And all the while, I had personal problems. I went through a divorce. And that shook me. That really, it was devastating. So I was married for 7.5 years, and then things fell apart for various reasons, right? I won't have to disclose all that, but bottom line is, then I found myself, I was on my own, paying for a mortgage, going to work every day, still coaching, managing 3 kids on my own, single parent. Yeah. That's the hardest job, being a parent.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
And to be a single parent is even harder. So I did that for a number of years, and my kids were involved in the sport of wrestling as well, which was good. And we traveled all through Canada and, hitting tournaments and doing stuff. And when I won that wrestling championship, my kids were part of that in 2011. I had both my oldest daughter and my son on that high school team in 2011. My daughter became a regional champion in her 11th grade, and my son went undefeated in high school at the regional championships, grades 10, 11, and 12. He didn't wrestle in grade 9. He had a back injury. Grade 10, 11, and 12, he won 3 straight regional championships, including in the 10th grade, he won the senior championship. The 11th grade, he won the officer championship. When our team won in 2013, my son Cassius also won the individual wrestling championship for his weight category in the province. So that was a special moment for me. So good on him. Shout out to Cassius.
Just to kind of give some perspective, because we've got people from all over the world. To win the officer tournament would be like winning a state championship in the U.S.?
That's correct. I mean, by comparison, yes, but the state championship is way bigger than an officer championship. So, but it would be
kind of the equivalent. Right? Kind of like the equivalent, because we don't have
from a geographical perspective, yes. But from a quantitative quality perspective, we can't even come close to what they do in a state championship in the United States.
Yeah, no doubt.
But according to our standards, it was decent.
And we've had some boys here. We've had some pretty serious talent. We spoke the other day, Coach, about a guy that was on our team when we trained my boy that ended up going to the UFC. A guy that's working now, Chris Prickett, who's working out of Brock University now. And
big up to Chris Prickett.
Big up to Chris Prickett for sure, man.
He's dangerous.
No doubt, man.
Dangerous, man.
No doubt, man.
Big up to the Brock University wrestling program. Straight up.
Yeah,
Brock
man.
Alumni in the house.
So are they considered still the best wrestling university in Canada?
Of course.
Among the.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's some other great programs as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Great coaches.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I was saying I was divorced and left with 3 kids on my own, and just managed and kept my kids involved in sport, and that helped us a lot. And just kept going through things in life. And eventually, it was expensive to pay for the divorce. And so I had to find another means of income in addition to what I was earning as a teacher. So I started bouncing in a nightclub. And I did that for 10 years while teaching full-time, while coaching, while managing being a single parent, paying a mortgage on my own. No help. Very little help, if any at all. But I got through it. It was, I wanted to be successful, and I ended up doing it. And in the process of doing that, I was able to clear my debt. Lost about $100,000 going through the divorce. Made some money back up when I was in the club. And I saved some of that money. So by the time my oldest went to university and she ended up going to Brock, I bought a rental property out there. So she lived in that rental property, and things were pretty good. And then my son ended up going to Brock. So he was there in the house. And then my other son ended up going to Niagara College. So they were all out there living in the home, and we're successful. I have 2 kids. Kayla and Cassius have graduated from Brock University, just like I did. And my son Kuro graduated from Niagara College, and he's a chef. And he's doing very well for himself. But I raised those 3 kids from the time the youngest was 3 and the oldest was 6 at the time, right through for about 15 years on my own, until they were all 18 and over and out of the house and off to college and university. And so I'm proud of my kids because they did extremely well. And I know that they went through a lot of stress as well because of the family dynamics and circumstance, which was very, very hard on them.
Coach, can I ask you a question, though? I really want to know, what was the driving force, man? Like how, what was it? What was it that like, what kept you going? There are so many elements of this story where people would say, I want to give up, or, whatever it is, that it's easier to give up. But to become a vice principal, to become a decorated athlete, to become a decorated athlete's coach, but more importantly, to become a father who has to do it himself.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, coach. That's pretty remarkable, man. What was the motivation? How did you do it? What could you share with our audience to say, how did you dig deep?
My faith. I've always had faith, because when it seemed like there was nothing else, there's always your faith. So when I was going through my divorce, I thought, this is horrible, and you're at your wit's end, and it feels like everyone's leaving you, or your life is falling apart. And then I figured, what would never leave me in this life? What would never fall apart? And there's more than two things, but there's two things that won't leave you in this life, or three things rather. And I'm sure there's more, but three things that I thought about that wouldn't leave you in this life is: one is your education, two is your sport, and three is your faith. And in no particular order, they're interchangeable. But those things kept me together, so I made sure that I was faithful and believed. That's why I started with a prayer on the show. Just to bless you, to bless me, to bless this program, because I want you to be successful. So I'm sharing my faith with you as much as I am with the audience. So that kept me strong and whole. My education, to just study or to teach and to coach, and also the sports to coach. Those two things also kept me grounded and together. So I had focus. Everything else was falling apart, but I made sure that those three things stayed in place. I want to big up my boy Kevin Wallen in Jamaica. Kevin Wallen told me this story about this little boy that wanted attention from his father, and his father was busy in the office working, and the boy went up to the father and said, "Hey, can you come and play with me?" And the father's like, "I'm busy right now, son. Here, go play with this toy." The boy comes back 10 minutes later. "I'm tired of playing with the toy. I want to play with you." Dad's like, "I still got work to do. Go and play with this other toy." Kid comes back 5 minutes later. "Dad, I just want to play with you." Dad's like, "Okay, son, look." And he gave him this puzzle. And on the box had a cover of a man and a globe. And he goes, "Go put this puzzle together. It's got like 1,000 pieces. As soon as you're finished putting this puzzle together, I swear I'll stop what I'm doing and I will come and I will play with you." Boy left discouraged, went, sat down with the puzzle, looked at it, and took out the 1,000 pieces and put it all together. Came back to the dad like within a half an hour and said, "Dad, here you go. Now you got to stop. Now you got to play with me." And the dad was shocked. He said, "How in the world did you do this so quickly? Now you've got my attention. Like, what did you do? It's got 1,000 pieces. That should take you hours." He goes, "Dad, I looked at the cover. And the cover of the puzzle had this man. So I looked at the pieces of the puzzle and I put the pieces of the puzzle of the man together. And above the man was his globe. Then I put the pieces of the globe together." He goes, "But when I put the pieces of the man together, his whole world seemed to come together." It was the man of the atlas where you're holding the globe. It was that. So I've always kept that story that Kevin Wallen told me in my mind. So like when I'm going through my divorce or doing anything, I just keep myself together. And we're all like puzzle pieces in this life. Everywhere you go and you walk, you bump into somebody, some pieces of the puzzle falls off. You got to pick it up. You got to put it back together. You got to keep yourself together.
Yeah, man.
But what helps keep us together? It's our faith. It's our education. It's our sport. And that's how I stay together all the time. I stay grounded, keep moving forward,
Amen, brother.
set higher limits,
I
help
feel the
people.
same. I feel the same, coach.
I feel enriched,
I do too, man.
you
No
know,
matter
and
how bad the days were for me, coach, I could always go back to Muay Thai. And when I slap on those pads and I get somebody ripping the pads, I'm training a group now, coach, called the Wolf Pack. They're leaders here in Ottawa or in Ontario that are just superhuman beings that are doing amazing things for the world. And I do this for them because I really truly respect what they do, coach. And all I can tell you is that no matter how bad my day is, I go back and I got the wolf pack, man. I can slap on and I have my sport. So I really feel you with that.
give
Continue. Sorry.
thanks. Give thanks.
Give
Bacia
thanks.
cielo.
That's it, man.
That means kisses to the heavens in Italian.
That's right, man. Kisses to the heavens, bro.
Bacia cielo.
Yeah, man. So, coach, I mean, so now you're at this place. So this David Suzuki. So this is it an environmental school?
Well, David Suzuki, the high school was named after David Suzuki from the nature of things. People may be aware of him. He's a gentleman, and the school prides itself on environmental stewardship. So because David Suzuki has done so much on a global perspective for the environment, our school now follows that model, that creed. So all the teachers in the school and the students in the school, we aim to keep doing all the things or most of the things that are going to be respectful and mindful of the environment so that we can live, work, and exist in our school community in a very safe and dynamic and clean natured way with respect to our environment. It's extremely important.
Coach, I want to read you something quickly from Bonafide Gaming. He says, my brother doesn't have Twitch, but wanted me to deliver a message for him. Brent Bone says, you were the biggest mentor in high school and helped mold me into the man I am today. You taught me hard work pays off. I'm so glad we crossed paths in this life. Thanks for everything.
Boner, the Bone Brothers, big up.
Big up.
Love you guys, man. Love you guys.
This is the kind of stuff that touches
Thank
my
you.
heart, coach. This is the stuff that touches my heart. This is why I knew that you would be so perfect for the show, because the truth is that I know you, coach. I've known you now for got to be close to, I don't know, got to getting close on 10 years, I guess now. And all I can say, coach, is that you're exactly that guy. And that's why there's so many people that are coming on to the show today that are just here to support you, to say, you know, you were just inspiration to so many kids. And that's what the world needs, coach. And if I can share something with you, coach, to kind of throw in my passion of metaphysics, you know, it was taught to us that in Egyptian civilization, it was the artists and the educators that were revered. We live in a society where, you know, the sportsmen and the actors are revered. But we've come out of we're still in it, but we're hoping to slowly move out of this pandemic. And certainly there's a few things that have come at least to light in my eyes, that we want to thank God for the heroes. There's the little guy. Hi, Leo. Come downstairs, buddy. Leonardo's here. But the heroes were the people on the front line that worked in the hospitals, and the nurses and the doctors that were there, but also the educators who had this difficult time. And I actually wanted to touch on that a little bit. Okay, coach? I wanted to ask you about what the climate has been like for you.
Well, overall, in my teaching career recently?
Well, so specifically recently, coach, like I know, and I also want to touch on something too, coach. So I want to touch on what the climate is like now in schools, what it's been like, but also talk about one of your biggest challenges of your life, which was a health challenge.
Yeah,
guys, I'm sorry for the noise, but I got a 3-year-old downstairs. Leo.
I understand.
Go ahead, coach. Wherever you want to start, there's so much to say.
There is. It's a very challenging climate right now for everyone. There's a lot to do in terms of listening to the directives from the ministry, from the school board, um, as well as just what's happening from the World Health Organization.
Yep.
So you're taking all this information in, and the thing is, it's constantly changing. So we have to be prepared to pivot whenever we get new information pertaining to, well, everyone's health. That puts a lot of pressure on people, on teachers, on students, on administrators that are all working together in the school community to help students to be successful. Well, it is extremely challenging on the mindset of a lot of people because of these external factors. So the climate is, I would use the word, very, very challenging right now. It's very challenging.
Yeah, coach, like I mean, there's still talk, I guess, that everybody's going back to school in September. So you'll be back full time in school. All the kids will be at school,
That's
but
correct.
our numbers are going up again here in Ontario for COVID. I just, I think it's just an incredible time. And I just kind of feel like there's always like the teacher bashing going on, like the teachers aren't doing enough, or they don't work hard enough, or oh, they get vacation, so what are they complaining about, and all this other stuff. But
Well, yeah, we hear that, and you know what? I'd like to invite you to come and live in our shoes and work in our environment and see if you can manage and do all the things that we do in the classroom.
right.
Like you're doing the show, and your child is coming in, and that may be, in some respect, a disturbance to your concentration and what you need to do in your show. Now imagine that times 25, 30 kids in a classroom while you're trying to educate them.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the patience, as you were alluding to earlier, about, when you're there and you've seen a kid that was challenging, and et cetera, you want to react or treat him one way, but yet you see me respond to him and or a parent another way. Not everyone has that personality, that what you need in order to get through to an individual in the best way possible.
And let me throw in another component here, coach, for our friends in the Twitchiverse to just really get a picture, because we're talking about, being a single dad, being a wrestling athlete, being a judo champion, all these dynamics, all these various dimensions of your life that come together. And what ends up happening?
Get stressed.
You get stressed, and then what happens after that is you get sick.
You do. And that's kind of what happened with me.
Holy Jesus.
So after going through everything I've gone through in my life, and all the trials and tribulations and the perseverance to become successful, which I'm grateful for, the most important thing that we all need to be grateful for is our health. Because at any time, these stressors can impact your health, and that's what happened with me. So shortly after I became a vice principal, after 19 years at Heart Lake, I moved and became a vice principal, and I started working at David Suzuki in February 1st, 2018. And just under 2 years of working there, I found out that I had cancer. So I was going to the doctors and getting checked, and it was prostate cancer, something that's very common for males, in particular Black males. Most men are going to be impacted with some kind of prostate issue, but typically that's not going to happen until you're in your 60s. Some males, in particular people of color, are impacted earlier in their 40s or 50s. So it's something that we have to be mindful and we have to watch out for, and you have to go and get your PSA check, which is your protein-specific antigen levels checked. It's a blood test to see if you are inclined to have prostate cancer or prostate issues. So with me, I didn't know that I had an issue. I figured I'm a pretty healthy guy, but I noticed that I was going to the bathroom a lot, urinating a lot. So when I went to the doctors to get my regular health check, I mentioned that I'm urinating a lot. I said, is it because I'm athletic and I'm drinking a lot, I'm coaching, I'm doing all these things? And the doctor's saying, yeah, that's part of it. So he tested my PSA. It was about 5 years ago when I was still at Heart Lake. And my PSA level had gone up to, I think, 4. A regular man's PSA is supposed to be between 0 and 4. Once it gets above 4, then there's a problem, or it's an indicator of some kind of health issue, related to your prostate. So I went back 2 years later, prostate level was at 5. I was sent to the hospital to get an examination. They did the old digital finger check, very unpleasant. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was so unpleasant that you're screaming, and when you're done, the doctor's putting his hands on my shoulder and says, hey, when you come to me, you lose your dignity. I was like, I don't want to come back to you ever again. I left, but my PSA level was at 5 at the time. Everything appeared to be okay still. And then that's where I got busy. And I started, trying to become a vice principal. I'm studying, I'm doing all these things, I'm taking all these courses, and life just gets in the way to the point where you ignore your health concerns. So I was so busy and so focused on the end goal of becoming a vice principal that a couple of years went by and I never went to the doctor to get checked. This is where my wife is my lifesaver. She kept forcing me to go to the doctor. So after about a year of listening, I went to the doctor just so I didn't have to hear her tell me to go to the doctor anymore. And when I went there, then my PSA level was at 13. Should be dead. So they send me to a urologist. I go to the urologist isn't there. Some other guy's there. So I also needed to get a vasectomy at the same time. So the urologist just told me about the vasectomy. So I set everything up and I went to a couple months later to get this vasectomy, completely forgetting about the prostate issues, get the vasectomy done, and off I go. Another year or two goes by. I finally become a vice principal. I'm working, and this is where I go back to get the regular family checkup. Now my PSA level's at 24. I should have been dead a year or two ago. So then they rushed the blood results. They rushed me down to the urologist. I get checked. Then I have to get something called a prostate biopsy done. If I thought that the health checkup from a couple of years ago, where I lost my dignity, was not cool, I can't even describe on this platform how unpleasant getting a prostate biopsy was. It was the most excruciating, uncomfortable thing that I had experienced to that point in my life. But it was important to get done so that they can get samples of the prostate to take out to pathology for examination to see if it's cancerous. Long story short, it came back cancerous, and then it was a whole search now to make sure that I found the right doctor to give me the right treatment. I ended up reaching out to the wrestling community because there was a couple of wrestlers that I knew that went through this process. And they were very instrumental in assisting me, in giving me direction and educating me on what I needed to do. So I ended up deciding it was either getting radiation done or getting surgery done. Well, I didn't like the thought of radiation, so I went with the surgery, and I had my prostate gland removed on January 24th, 2020, a year and a half ago. The surgery went well. However, the prostate was breached with cancer, and so when they removed the prostate, there were still remnants of cancer cells remaining in my body. So the cancer PSA level blood test started to escalate again. So they kept an eye on it for about a year, and then they said the only other way to get rid of this before it spreads all over your body and kills you is you have to undergo radiation, which is what I did not want to do in the first place. So I had my surgery done in Hamilton and at St. Joseph's Hospital. and I credit them for doing the job that they did. It was and the service that they did was tremendous. And then at Credit Valley Hospital, Mississauga, I only finished completing my radiation tour about four months ago. So I'm freshly recovering from radiation treatment. I had to go into Credit Valley Hospital every single day, Monday to Friday, for 7 weeks to get radiation to my pelvis, my pelvic region. They have to do radiate the entire pelvic region to kill off all the cancer cells that were remaining. In addition to that, I have to get hormone shots called Eligard, and I have to be on that hormones for 2 years. The Eligard hormone is to help suppress testosterone because testosterone levels or testosterone fuels cancer cells. And I happen to have high testosterone, like a man's man, if you will. Not trying to be braggadocious. It's just I'm just high in testosterone.
Yeah.
So a man's testosterone should be between 0 and 28. My levels were at 21 after being on the hormones. They were trying to bring it down. So the combination of the radiation and the radiation treatment to my pelvic region, as well as the Eligard hormones that I have to get 4 shots. I've gotten 2 already. 1 shot into my stomach lasts for 6 months. I just got my 2nd shot in July, which will last another 6 months. And then in February, I got to get a 3rd shot. And then next July, get the last shot. No
And just so that everybody knows, Coach, and you've been cleared now, but you're actually going back to work and have already started work already.
Yeah, I just started a couple of days ago. So I went in about a week and a half ago, just set up my office.
You're a machine,
and
bro.
When they cleared me, I went to Hamilton and to see my surgeon, and my PSA levels thankfully have dropped, and they're down to 0.008, which means that the cancer is undetectable. And so therefore, I've got a clean bill of health. Everything looks pretty good. So they gave me the thumbs up and said, yeah, if you're mentally ready, you know, physically you should be okay to go back to work. I said, all right. So as I was driving home from the hospital last week and a half ago, I called the board office. I said, sign me up, going back to work. And they said, what? Do you need any accommodations? I don't need no accommodations. I just want to work. So they signed me back up, and I went in last week and I straightened out my office, and I started a couple of days ago and went in and had 2 days of interviews, interviewing people for positions, and felt good. Just never lost a beat. So we hired some new teachers at our school, and we're ready to go. Ready to go. One of the
Thank
new
God
hires.
for that, Coach. Thank God you're healthy, Coach.
No, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so, you know, I'm okay
You
for
still
now.
got a lot of stuff to do on this planet, Coach. That's why.
Well, yeah, and that's a game plan, right? And hopefully a lot of it, some of it's going to involve being with you. And as a matter of fact, we're starting right here, right now. So here I am, a clean bill of health, you know, and, you know, grazie a Dio.
So, Coach, can I ask you, is there one, I don't know, I mean, the trauma, the tragedy in one's life is what creates the sometimes the motivation for us to, and molds us into who we are. We have these traumas, we go through these trials and tribulations, and without going through them, we don't, maybe we won't get as further as far as we could. So in this case, Coach, now that you've come to this point, and already it's first of all a blessing that you're healthy, but
Thank you.
Again, the perseverance that you just finished all these treatments and you're already going back to school. Again, a testament to who you are as an individual.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've got to give thanks to the main man upstairs, Bacha Chalo. I got to give thanks to my wife, who's a pillar here in the household and a pillar in my life for support. And there's other support people around me, yourself included, that have been tremendous in terms of inspiring me to want to be around, to want to get healthy, to want to get better, so that we can have these meaningful conversations moving forward. And you can have these encounters that are going to serve a bigger purpose than just beyond a gathering. So
100%.
yeah.
So my question to you, Coach, is there one takeaway from all this for you? What's changed when you look at your life, all that you've been through, and now this difficult time of going through cancer? Because as you know, my father passed a month ago. He's had 1 heart attack, 5 cancers, 4 strokes, and a hematoma in the brain. So this man in his own right was a fighter. But what's the takeaway for you? What's changed in your life? If you could sum it up in a short few sentences, when you look at life with the lenses that you have now, is there something that really comes to the forefront for you of who you are and what you've become now?
We all have to face our own mortality at some point. I faced mine a year and a half ago when I went under the knife to get that prostate removed. We are going to be challenged, and we are going to have to manage those challenges as best as we possibly can in order to survive. Surrounding yourself with the right people, keeping a healthy and strong mindset, keeping whatever faith you want to believe in, staying true to form, and having some confidence and belief that one day things will get better is a starting point for the healing. So nothing really changes except for your mindset and your attitude. You need to be able to pivot your mindset and your attitude along with your actions in order to improve and to grow and to learn and to make small steps forward each and every day that are significant and meaningful to your own and as well as everybody else's around you's existence. That's what's up.
That's what's up. Coach, we're at 90 minutes, my friend, almost at 90 minutes already. You believe it?
No, not at all. Didn't feel like it.
It's really remarkable how the time goes, but I wanted to sort of give an opportunity for you to sort of share the lenses, and I would like to believe that when you talk about faith, Coach, that there's also this element of gratitude, that there's a lot of gratitude for all that you've been through, and really, it's incredible, Coach. Your story is amazing. You're an amazing human being. You, in the midst of your darkest moments, you find your greatest strength, and that's who you are. And what an absolute honor it is to call you a friend. You are really, truly a remarkable man, and I know that there's someone out there who's going to watch this and say that whatever I'm going through, I'm going to look to this story of Coach Chris Kelman, aka the Kelmanator. There is no greater, and look at this and say, wow, whatever I'm going through, if Coach Kelman can get through it, I can get through it.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? I want to thank you for this opportunity to present myself here on this platform, to share a little bit of my narrative and some of my lived experiences. And I hope it's helped to inspire a handful of people that have tuned in, or they can tell a few others if they tuned in and the others didn't. And, just wishing everybody well. good health. And once you have that, you've got it made. And one tad bit that I have to say to everyone is, if you can be just a small, tiny bit measurable better than mediocrity, which is average in this life, then you've got it made. Because most people are well below average.
Well said, Coach. Again, Coach, what an honor. Here's what I'm going to do, Coach. I'm going to bring you backstage. I always like to give my final thought. So we are going to sort of finish off. When we finish the show, Coach, our dear friend Josh Putination, he's going to raid us. Raid means we're going to go over to another channel and keep our friends entertained in some way, shape, or form with whoever Putination feels appropriate. But again,
Nice.
From the bottom of my heart, Coach, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. And, we'll catch up in a few minutes.
Grazie, ciao, arrivederci.
Arrivederci. So you're having a tough day? You got some things going on in your life? Great. Listen to the show. Take something from the show. Because for me, I'm going through my own tough stuff. And maybe one day, Josh, maybe one day you'll bring us and you'll do the sort of interview with me and I'll share my story. But for today, I'm just really grateful that we had an opportunity to listen to Coach Chris Kelman. An amazing story. And wow, is it our 100th episode? Really? Already? I can't believe that. That's amazing. Well, cheers to 100 episodes. Let's give a round of applause. Oh, I see. See, I'm just reading the chat here, guys. Yes, you're right. I was going to say that doesn't seem like 100. For my 100th episode, we'll do a thing. Wonderful. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. To me, guys, just to close up here. First of all, without your health, you have nothing, which is in alignment with what I preach in terms of my coaching. Awareness is the result of balance and clarity. When we talk about balance, we talk about the 3 points of the triangle of body, mind, and spirit. So I challenge each and every one of you that's watching. What are you doing to exercise your body, your mind, and your spirit every day? Because if you love somebody on this planet, the best thing that you can do for them is become the best version of yourself. Self-love, my friends, don't forget it. You need to give it. You need to give it to yourself, because without it, you cannot serve from an empty cup. You need to serve from a full cup. And that full cup comes from when you're giving yourself self-love. Next week on the Coffee and Biscotti Show, Colin Malone. You guys are going to love this one. He's a dating coach. Yes, you heard it right here on the Coffee and Biscotti Show, our very own Hitch. Is that what the movie's called? I think it's called Hitch, right? Yeah, man. That's the one with Will Smith, the dating doctor. Colin Malone next week on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Be here, my friends, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crew Mel, sending some love to you and yours, from my heart to yours. Peace. Josh, raid us away, brother. We'll see you wherever we're going to raid.